it's been nearly a year since you've been announced as the new bass player for Coheed.
Mm-hmm.
Has the excitement worn off at all yet?
No, absolutely not.
I could imagine.
Yeah, I don't think it'll ever wear off.
Yeah, it's a pretty awesome gig, man.
It's an incredible gig. Yeah.
Right on. So give us a little brief history about yourself. How long have you been playing? Were you in a band with before you auditioned for Coheed?
Oh yeah. I started playing. I must have been in middle school. I don't remember how old I was, but I remember getting my first bass, and I didn't even want to play bass.
Really?
Yeah. My two best friends, all through school, both got guitars. And
by default?
Yeah, I wanted to play guitar. Yeah, and I was like, I want to play guitar too. And they were like, we're going to start this band. I was like, yes, I'm going to be in a band with my best friends. And, I was like 12 or something. And, I told them, I'll get a guitar too. And they're like, you can't play guitar if you want to be in our band. You have to play bass. And I was like, no, man, I want to play guitar.
Nice.
And they said no. So I was like, all right, I guess I'll get a bass. This sucks.
Well, it looks like it worked out well for you, man.
Yeah, totally. I think I'm the only one that's still, I'm the only one doing it.
Actively playing in a band.
I mean, the rest of the guys that I grew up with are still playing, but not. But that's how I started off. Yeah.
Awesome.
It seems like all bass players start with guitar first.
Yeah, but I didn't. I started right on the bass. It was the first thing I played, and I've loved it ever since. But
awesome.
yeah, I played in tons of bands before. Coheed did like fan tours and stuff like that.
Right on. How did the audition with Coheed actually come about?
It was actually a band I was in. We were doing like an EP
mm-hmm.
kind of thing, and they tracked I think 2 or 3 songs we did at Applehead, which is where the new Coheed record was done.
Right.
And Chris Bittner, who produced and engineered the Coheed record, engineered that session. And I went in, and it was a band that I was playing in, but it was like some good friends of mine, like the guitar player and the drummer, like kind of wrote everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would just like kind of present the ideas, and I'd be like, okay, cool, yeah, play whatever. It was fun, but it wasn't like your typical, like, okay, we're gonna write songs in this garage kind of
right
thing. Because we were all spread out. But anyway, I'm babbling, I guess. We did this session at Applehead, and I went in, and a couple of songs, one song I think it was, I had never even heard, and they just like gave me a rough outline, and I did it, and it was quick and easy, and it was no big deal. And Chris, was like, hey man, I really like your playing, and I get sessions in here all the time, and I need bass players.
mm-hmm.
Can I take your contact info and call you? Just come up and do sessions. And I was like, yeah, hell yeah, man, that'd be awesome. And then a year later, Blaze called me. And that was because Chris and Mike had said, hey, listen, we got a guy that maybe you should check out. Yeah. So it was
awesome.
Yeah, that was a pretty heavy situation.
It sounds like it, man. And that leads to my next question. I'd imagine that joining a band such as Coheed with a big known, well-known, large fan base, it could be pretty daunting. Was there any hesitation on your end initially joining the band?
There was no hesitation whatsoever. It was the kind of thing where any kind of questions that I had, like, my wife and I would kind of talk about situations before I even knew,
right,
while I was still in the audition process. Yeah, and it was like, can I handle this? Can I do this? Like, what do we, And she was very, very much like, you have to. This is like an incredible opportunity if it's offered to you. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I can't even think about it. I just have to do it.
Awesome.
And so that's, there was no hesitation really. It's and we kind of just jumped right in and
right on.
Went for it.
With the number of lineup changes within the past few years, and now the lineup is almost all original. Have the guys actually been more of a mentor to you, or has the dynamic between everyone been pretty equal at this point?
I mean, it seems pretty equal.
Right.
Nobody, the cool thing is with it being, 3/4 original, and Josh coming back in like you know, he kind of came right into the band right before me.
Right.
And like within like a week or two of me auditioning, like that's kind of where Josh's timeline, I guess, began. But those guys have so much history,
Right.
you know, playing together for so long, knowing each other since they were kids, and so that kind of makes for an interesting dynamic for me to come in and find a place. But they've been incredible as far as like, you know, just making me feel like you're not the odd man out. You're not, you know,
Right.
you are very much.
Well, and I've read that the band have said that they see a lot of themselves in you and your personality. Are those feelings reciprocal towards them?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that was one of the things that made it kind of easy for me is they're the kind of guys that their personalities and the way that they are, and the kind of guys that they are, they're the kind of guys that I would hang out with. They're just like the rest of my core friends and stuff like that. So,
Right.
So there was no like, you know, I didn't come into it and say like, man, these guys are like a bunch of partiers or like, you know, this isn't my, you know, because I'm a pretty tame, mellow kind of family guy, and that's how the rest of them are too. So it kind of, you know, that was definitely
Awesome.
yeah, exactly. So for me not coming in being like, let's rage, you know, and for them not, you know.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
Right on. So besides, you know, your personality and the relationships that you guys have built so far, or built when you were auditioning, what in your own words would you say it is about your playing style and musicality that actually landed you the gig?
I think I don't know how to say my own playing, how it may have affected.
Or
I know
how you maybe have what you guys had in common, you know, musically that really.
There are like a lot of similarities. A lot of the things that they listen to, or you know, things that I listen to.
Right.
There's kind of like some common ground. One of the things I think maybe for my playing in particular that maybe helped was the way that Josh plays,
Mm-hmm.
and how he's got like this kind of pocket style playing. Even when he's like rocking out, there's this like kind of underlying like groove element.
Right.
And that's kind of always been an aspect of the way that I play, which is kind of a weird thing for like, I don't think of myself as like a just like this rock bass player dude who just like pounds away and the eighth note, you know, I've always liked playing
in a rhythm section.
Yeah, in a rhythm section, creating a foundation and really kind of giving like a solid kind of like groundwork.
That vibe too, I think, like super solid.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. Thank you. That's cool. I mean, and that I think my playing style may have helped, you know. But from what they've said, it was like that was your personality, because you know, nobody auditioned for this band that was a slouch. Like everybody, I think that they came in. There were probably guys that.
Yeah, I saw in the announcement video, Josh said, you know, they could have hired any bass player, but it was the personality that got him. So.
Yeah, and I didn't even really realize during the audition process how important that was. You know, they kind of said it at first, like, you know, we're also looking for someone who, you know, it's kind of like, yeah, get along with you. This is a family, and we need like a family member, and that's kind of a weird thing to look for.
Right.
To adopt you.
Yeah, kind of. And I didn't really realize it until going out on the road, like how important that was. Because when you got like 11 guys in a bus, how do you get along with people? How do you handle stressful situations?
And it could be interesting to bring a stranger on a bus, someone that wasn't that family member. So.
Yeah, it would make for an interesting.
Definitely understand that. You know, you were just talking about the dynamic between you and Josh, and how you feel that rhythm section kind of is what brought you into it. Describe a little bit more about your involvement in the writing process for the new album, and how maybe the other members influenced your sound as well.
Well, the interesting thing about my involvement in the writing process on the record was when I came in and auditioned, there was the way that they did the record. It was really interesting. They would do small batches of songs at a time, like 3 or 4 songs. They would have some demos, get together at Claude's house, flesh them out in the basement for a couple days, kind of just work through stuff. How does this sound? What do you think about this? You know, just flesh things out, work on arrangements, and then go into the studio, track drums, get some scratch guitars on, you know. And it was just kind of like rehearse a couple of songs, go into the studio, track everything, take a little time off, get back together, start rehearsing the next batch of songs. Like, so it was kind of this interesting process like that.
Right.
And when I came into audition, it was, they had just finished drums on the first batch, the first 3 songs that they were recording. So I came in and I got this like little demo thing when it was snippets of 2 songs in one MP3 file. It was like 4 minutes long. It was like 2 minutes of Domino with just scratch guitar and vocal, and like a little bit of Two's My Favorite One, which is the last song on Descension. Right. Just acoustic guitar, like an acoustic demo with a vocal. And when I came into the studio, it was drums, loud guitar, you know, like the whole, you know, there's a whole thing going on. And so I kind of went in and played to it. And when I came in to track it, it was, you know, okay, we'll you know, I'd come up with some ideas, and they'd start bouncing ideas off me. How about, you know, hey, do you hear it like this? Maybe try this.
Right.
So in the beginning, it was like that, and then as time went on, you know, they would call me in and say, hey, we got some stuff. Can you track bass? Yeah, sure. So I'd go in like once a week. Then it was as things kept moving along, they'd be like, hey, Josh is tracking drums. Do you want to come in and listen, and maybe it'll help you get ideas for the demos?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, cool, absolutely. So I'd go up and hang while Josh tracked drums, and then, hey man, we're gonna be here tomorrow. Do you want to come up? I don't know what we're gonna do, but just you want to be here? Yeah, sure, absolutely. And then
so just like evolved.
It evolved, yeah. And then as time went on, it was like, hey, we're gonna get together and work on these songs. Like Claude would call me, hey, we're gonna work on these songs at my house.
Yeah.
You want to come over? And we'll just hang out. And so so we'd go into the basement and just work out things, and I would be able to, you know, hear the songs and come up with stuff and see how it worked, and then we would flesh it out in the studio. So, you know, it was like this evolution along the way. I wasn't really a part of like the writing process. I didn't come in and say, hey, I got some songs. Let's do this, you know.
Right.
You know, but it was an interesting kind of evolution to start out with getting just thrown into it.
Right.
Like the first day that I auditioned, and then 2 days later came back to actually track for the record. And I did Domino and Two's My Favorite One that day. So it was like I had auditioned 2 days before. Still didn't know. They were just like, we're just gonna see how you work.
Just to track it out.
We're just gonna see what happens. So we're gonna lay it down.
Right.
And that's what's on the record.
Awesome.
You know. So it was an interesting, like, okay, kind of, you know, what can you do?
Right.
Here it is.
Wow.
We're gonna make it permanent. You know. And you know, so then but then it became more like, hey, let's work this stuff out at the house, and yeah.
Right on. And so, how about working with Travis and Claudio? What was, you know, their influence on your sound as well? Not just kind of letting you go with it, but maybe their playing style and how it influenced your playing style.
Oh, definitely. You know, I think. So I was a fan of the band for years before. So,
right.
So listening to the band and hearing their style of writing and kind of the way that they approach things was definitely an influence even before.
Right.
But getting into a room with them, and like, you know, sometimes there'd be these riffs, and Claude would be like, yeah, you know, I think it'd be cool if you doubled this or something.
Right.
It kind of, at first, some of the stuff that he was presenting to me was like, dude, that's what the hell is that? what are you doing? Like, you want me to do that? And but it's interesting, as time went on, I started to kind of really understand both their like kind of styles of playing.
Right.
And it's actually funny. I started to notice it when I was like learning songs for the tour, the first tour we did, when I was like going back into the back catalog and learning stuff.
Right.
I could hear stuff and be like, oh, I know how he was approaching this. He was like doing this like weird hammer-on thing that he does, or this like you know,
actually getting to flesh it out.
Yeah, and actually kind of understanding like how they play,
right?
How they approach these things, and so there's definitely you know, and it definitely kind of carries into my playing, and I see it more now, like when I'm just kind of sitting playing stuff, I'll be like, oh, where did that thing come from? I never would have approached something like that.
Right, kind of imaging it.
Yeah, and it's kind of like these things kind of like are starting to pop up, which is like long term.
Right.
I guess over this. Yeah, kind of, but it was like a slow process, you know, of first being presented with some things and being like, what? What? To then finally, you know, you like, oh, okay, I see it, but can I do it?
Yeah.
And then, okay, I can do this, and then, oh wow, I've never done something like that before. Where did that come from? That's
kind of figuring that out.
Yeah.
You know, another thing I wanted to ask about, kind of in the writing process, is you know, the album's concept, the band's concept is obviously, you know, kind of a Claudio idea.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any input on the concept of the story from other members? You know, maybe, you know, from even Travis and Josh, or
you know, I don't know how much there is. I think that he kind of puts together the stories.
Right.
I don't know if maybe they'll bounce ideas around and flesh things out, but I never saw anything like that. So I don't really know. As far as I know, it's, you know, he kind of like forms those concepts and really fleshes them out and stuff. So
awesome. You know, we've been listening to Afterman a lot, and obviously it's divided into two separate releases. You know, and besides kind of giving the listener a chance to absorb each half individually, you know, they obviously definitely have their own unique identity and sound. How would you describe the two discs?
Oh, that's a tough one. You know, I really feel like, you know, they were separated. They were kind of set up to, like, you know, okay, here's Ascension.
Right.
Yeah. You know, digest it a little bit.
Right.
Here's Descension, kind of thing. But it's hard for me to kind of break them apart like that.
Right. Well, they're definitely, you know, obviously a collection of a greater whole. But
yeah.
You know, again, I feel each one has its own sound, and maybe Descension's a little more aggressive.
Yeah, they definitely do have their own sound. I think Descension is a little more aggressive, and it's a little darker. I think because it's dealing with like a little darker subject matter, like not really dark, but maybe, you know, it's like a sadder kind of element of the story.
Right.
And I think that the way that they're broken up is directly because of the concept, the story that goes through. Because this is the first record that they've done where the story starts at the first track and ends at like it goes
an actual arc across the
arc through. Exactly.
Right.
So in that way, I think that's one thing that really gives them their own identity. Is you know, you've got this story arc, and the way that it kind of goes, the songs follow.
Right.
So I definitely. What's that?
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's, you know, I definitely think that has affected the sounds. The Descension being like a little more aggressive, maybe a little, you know.
No, yeah.
It's hard to say, but, you know, Ascension's got some moments on it that are a little, you know, dark, and I mean, it starts off kind of dark with Domino and everything like that, but I definitely think
there's a little separation.
There's a little bit, but there's also some songs on Descension that are like really happy.
No, agreed.
Like,
yes.
Like Away We Go, and Two's my favorite one. They're these kind of like, maybe not happy, but they're a little more uplifting. Where I think Ascension doesn't really have a moment of like,
bliss.
Yeah, like this is not, you know, like the closest I think you get is like Evagria maybe.
Right.
The Afterman is pretty somber. That's a great. Yeah, I love that song too.
And that leads me to my next question. Are there any tracks that you are particularly proud of for yourself in these two records?
There's a few. I was really kind of happy and proud with Domino was one of them. mainly because, like I said before, it was really like trial by fire. It was
Right.
like, hey man, we're throwing you in. Let's see what happens. And I was really kind of happy with having no real way to prepare for it.
Right.
Going into the studio and making that happen quickly.
Right.
So that's one. I was really stoked about Evagria.
Mm-hmm.
I really felt good about that. And the guys have given me like a lot of compliments about that. Claude was always saying like, dude, the bass is like what drives that song. Like
Right.
that's the thing that everything sits on that. If you take that out, there's nothing there.
Everything's just wrapped around it.
Yeah, which I was like, well, thanks, man. I mean, I just did it around what you did, so But that was one that I really. That's one tune that I really feel kind of particularly like. All right, I think I turned in a pretty good performance on this.
Awesome.
So.
I noticed that playing live. I watched you on Conan the other night, and we watched you on tour recently, and we noticed that you're sharing backup vocal duties.
Yeah.
Did you by chance record any vocals on the album?
Just gang vocals.
Really?
Yeah, like the Hang Your Secrets and Vic. We did. It was like me and Travis and Josh and Chris, the engineer on the record, like in a vocal booth yelling. But that's just stuff like that. Gang vocals and like hand claps.
Are those vocals are they a part of your musical repertoire in the past?
They're not at all, and that's the funny thing. My friends, the dudes that I played in bands with for years and we toured and stuff like that. We always rehearsed in this like in the area of New York I live in. It's like it's not the city. We live like north of the city, kind of rural area. There there was this warehouse with a garage off the side of it, and the band I was in and like 4 other bands chipped in and rented this unheated garage.
Big space.
Yeah, not a big space, like the size of this room.
Space.
Yeah, where the roof came down and you could see where it was not connected to the wall. It was just
Sounds cold.
It was freezing. Yeah, and that so in this room is where we rehearsed all the time, full volume, blowing my ears out every night. We could. Okay.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I get like long-winded.
No, it's just making sure we're still recording.
So anyway, yeah. Whenever I did backup vocals in these bands, I couldn't hear. There were no monitors. There was nothing. It was like a little PA, and I would be totally out of breath because I like rocking out hard. I'd get up to the mic, and everything would be like, like these like out of breath scream. I don't have a voice, like kind of things happening. So there was this like long running thing for years with my friends. Dude, you suck at singing. You are terrible. Don't ever put a mic in front of you unless you're gonna scream something. Don't put it. And I was like, all right, yeah, I guess. And I remember before we started rehearsals for that first tour, Blaze, the band's manager, called me and was like, hey man, we didn't really discuss this, but I'm just gonna assume that it's cool. Like, you can do backup vocals, right? And I was like, oh no. And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. I think the thing that I said, I was like, I can hit notes. And
nice.
Yeah, so I remember being like, oh man, what am I gonna do? They're gonna find out, because all my friends have been telling me for years, dude, you suck. Right. You are terrible. You're the worst for years. And I was like, oh, they're gonna find out, I guess, and it's gonna be what it's gonna be. And we got in there, and Claude would like give me some harmony stuff, and I would hit it, and I was like, oh, I can hit it, because now I'm in a warm room with in-ear monitors.
Right. You can actually hear yourself.
I can hear myself. I'm not like at the edge of my, like screaming so that I can try and hear it in my head.
Right.
I could hear it. So I'm not a great singer. I don't, that's not something that I am. But if I can hit the harmonies, I can sing them, and everything worked out pretty well. So it's funny because even some of those friends came to some of the shows when we were on the East Coast, and they were like, oh, hey, you didn't sound that bad. You sounded all right. I was like, that's...
We retract our previous statement.
Yeah. They're like, I'm really sorry if the things that we said for all those years prevented you from getting better at this because you just didn't do it.
Right on, man. So you mentioned before that you wanted to start out playing guitar, and then actually started playing bass. Do you play any other instruments at all?
Yeah, I mean, I play a little bit of guitar. I can get around on it. At like a very small amount of keyboard, piano. Mm-hmm. I would never say that I can actually. Because when I hear myself play, I'm just like, oh, this is terrible.
Everyone's their own worst critic.
Yeah. Well, I say that about my bass playing too. He plays, I'm like, oh, this is the worst. What am I doing? Yeah, a little guitar, a little piano, keyboard stuff, and that's. I mean, I play upright bass too, but that's bass, so it's it's in the same world.
Awesome.
But yeah, I'm actually the worst drummer you'd probably ever hear. It's like you think that I never understood any kind of rhythm. It's kind of sad. But that's something that at some point I want to do.
You want to rectify?
I want to rectify. I have a bunch of friends who are great drummers. Josh, one of them,
right?
Who I've always I watch these guys play and I'm like, one day I want to be able to play like...
He definitely has a very unique style as well.
Yeah, oh, totally. He's got like his own voice on the kit. Like when he plays, it's just, I could be in another room and know that there could be 10 drum sets with 10 different drummers, and when he plays, I could be like, that's Josh. I know that's Josh.
What's some of your standard bass gear? You have any particular bass of choice that you like to go to?
The bass that I did most of the record with and the first couple tours with, I have this just nothing special American standard jazz bass that I played for years. Mm-hmm. All the band touring I did was with this bass, and it's just played that for years. I don't have it out on this tour, actually, though. I left it home because when I go home, I have no bass at home. So I was like, I'm going to leave this at home. That's one that I just love that bass. But I have out right now, I got from one of my old bass teachers. He has an original 76 P bass that I have out right now. So that thing is just monstrous. I love it. Yeah. The first time I played it, I was like, oh, dude, I got to get this from you. And this was years ago, and he was like, hell no.
Right.
And,
Yeah, I play bass too, and I love precision basses.
Oh, me too. That's all I have out right now.
Absolute favorite.
3 P basses.
Yeah.
I love them. It's funny, they're 3 totally different P basses, though. I have this a Highway 1 P bass. Okay. I don't know if you know, they're like an American made, but not expensive.
Right, okay, yeah.
So they did these it's called the Highway 1, American made P bass, but they did a lacquer finish on them. Okay. So they're like the old style finish. Yeah. So the cool thing about it is it just chips off, wears away. So I like that. I'm a fan. I like lacquer finishes. Yeah. So I have one of those, but before I left, I set it up to be a 5-string without a high G. So it's tuned B E A D.
Oh, nice.
So for Century and stuff like that. Because I had a 5-string too, but I left that home too. I didn't want to bring that up. Because I just got into this P bass. Once I got my hands on that 76, I was like, P bass, yeah. So I converted that bass, and I have I got a road worn 50s P bass for because essentially everything is either in standard or half step down. So that's like a half step down bass. So yeah, I got into P bass land. I know. Yeah, they really are. There's nothing. It's the coolest thing. There's nothing special about it. Yeah. It's one split single coil pickup with a volume and a tone knob, and I just keep it maxed out. I mean, I don't even need the knobs. Just give me a kill switch, and I'd be happy.
Right.
And if anything, the coolest thing about those basses, the thing that I love about them, and one of the reasons why I like touring with them, is if anything goes wrong, they're so easy to fix and cheap. Yep. That pickup breaks, $40. I got another one. I just put it. I don't care. You just put it in. If something happens to the neck, it's four bolts. You put another neck in, and there you go. You're good to go. They're super resilient.
Yeah, they're pretty much indestructible.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I love about it. I just like beat them, and just it's beautiful.
Awesome, man. Awesome. You said earlier that you were a fan of Coheed before joining the band, and you were familiar with songs and stuff like that, albums. What are some of your favorite older songs or?
Like older Coheed songs?
Yeah, older Coheed songs. Any that you really like playing live?
One of my favorites is playing "In Keeping Secrets."
Right.
I love that song. I remember getting into the band right before that record came out, because we were like, I kind of live in the same area,
right?
Well, like kind of between them, like half the dudes being from Rockland County, the other half being from Ulster.
Right.
I lived in Orange, which was in between. So they would play in towns around where I lived. So I remember getting into them. I wasn't into them in the beginning. I got, one of my friends flipped me a copy of Second Stage, and I was like, this is awesome.
Right.
Who are they? These guys are from around here? And they're like, yeah. And so I remember when In Keeping came out, I went and got it like the day it came out, me and my little brother, and I loved that record, played it out. So playing that song in particular is really, really fun, mainly because it's the weirdest thing, and it kind of flips me out sometimes when I actually think about it.
Right.
I'm up there, and I hear Claude start playing it, and I get pumped, and I look out and see the audience gets like,
it's
kids,
definitely one that's a sing-along all the way.
Yeah, all the way, and they get so excited about it, and I'm just like, man, I feel the same way as you guys.
Yeah.
This is cool.
It's probably a trip like playing it when you used to listen to it all the time.
That's the biggest trip. Like I remember seeing them after that record came out, around New York and stuff, and just like loving it. And so that's one specific song that's a real treat. And anything off of Second Stage when we get to do it is like
that's definitely by far. I mean, all albums I love, but definitely it's such a landmark album for a sound,
Oh, totally,
awesome.
Totally. So like when we did the Maiden tour over the summer, Delirium Trigger was in the set, and I was like, God, this is awesome, Or when the last tour that we did, through the East Coast and Midwest, when Everything Evil was on, I was like, I love this. This is awesome.
Classic.
Classic. Yeah. So I get excited about that era. Also, I mean, it's kind of undeniable that Welcome Home is a lot of fun.
Right.
Just like because I was I love that record too. I was a big fan. But the crowd just all of a sudden it's like kids are exploding out of the ground, like flying over each other, coming over the barricade. So that's always the energy is a lot of fun.
Awesome. You were talking about the tour with Iron Maiden. That's not only did you jump into a new record right in the band, but then you're on tour with the Iron Maiden.
Yeah, that
huge venues too.
Yeah, that was intense for me. I was a big Iron Maiden fan when I was a kid. Steve Harris was one of my favorite. I remember he was like one of my bass heroes when I was a kid. Still really. Every time I listen to Maiden, I'm like, man, that's so awesome. That's so awesome. So it was funny because I wasn't even. When was it? I remember I hadn't even toured yet.
Mm-hmm.
We hadn't gone out on the road yet. And I think it was like right after. No, it was before they announced me. Before they announced that I was in the band. So this is the hardest thing. I had, I was like doing the record. I started when I auditioned in November and went all the way through to like May before, and I couldn't really tell. They were like, you can tell your family it's cool, but try and keep a lid on it. And I was like, okay, no problem. And then I get this phone call one night from Blaze, and he was like, hey man, just want to give you a heads up. Things went through, and they're going to announce this Iron Maiden tour over the summer tomorrow. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah. So just so you know, so you're not caught off guard. So it's not like. And I was like, are you kidding? Really?
Oh, that's awesome.
And I remember I felt bad, but I had to. was like, okay, cool, man, awesome, sounds good. All right, good, yeah, okay, all right, I'll talk to you later. And I kind of rushed off the phone, and I just like ran around the house. I was like, wow, you know, like freaking out. And my wife was like, what is up? And I told her, and she was like, oh, whatever. Because my wife is not a
right.
But so that was a huge thing for me. But the hardest thing about that time was I couldn't tell anybody I was working with the band. So I obviously couldn't tell people, hey, this summer I'm gonna go out on tour with
Maiden,
yeah. But anyway, yeah, that tour was incredible.
Awesome.
They were awesome dudes. You know, we got to meet them and spend a little bit of time talking. Every now and then, I think like the first week of the tour, every night after we finished playing, we would run, eat catering, take a shower, and get out to front of house and watch the majority of their set. Yeah, just like little kids, man. We were just.
Their crowd was pretty receptive to you guys too. Sometimes you can run into a problem.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But we had a pretty good response with their crowd. They're you know.
I think the Black Sabbath cover definitely
we
helped.
You guys when you came to Salt Lake.
Oh, right on. Was it good?
It was
right.
incredible. Incredible.
That was the Heaven and Hell cover was definitely like it would be the turning point in the set where.
I saw everybody in the crowd go, oh, dude, Black Sabbath, you know.
Yeah. They're like, who are these guys? What's yeah, which that was definitely, you know, that was planned to be that way. Like, hey, we know, you know.
We are part of you.
Yeah, like hey, you know, we're big fans of
right.
all of
But
this.
I think it definitely comes across in the band's sound as well.
Yeah, it's definitely there, you know, which is cool.
You know, aside from Coheed and Maiden being some influences and stuff, you know, you're a fan of that. What are some of your musical influences growing up?
Oh man, there's a ton. I remember when I first started playing bass and I was really young. I was like a punk rock skateboarder, whatever. And you know, like right around the time I got my first bass, I had friends turn me on to Matt Freeman, Rancid,
right.
And you know, I remember just like flipping out about his playing. And then not long after, you know, searching through like my parents' record collections, you know, finding like Zeppelin, John Paul Jones became like a huge influence on my playing, like massively huge, and mainly because I the way that I kind of naturally approached playing like finger style and
right.
like that. Yeah. So I kind of was like, okay, all these like fast pick playing guys are cool, but I like, what's this? And then I started going that direction. So you know, John Paul Jones was a huge influence on me. I remember like playing along with every Zeppelin record.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was just bass drum dynamic too with Coheed now. It's like kind of similar.
Yeah, Josh is a huge Bonham fanatic,
totally
you know.
makes sense. That's
So
awesome.
it's funny. Like that was a huge influence on not only like playing the instrument, but approaching a rhythm section and in a rock band kind of thing. So that's one of the huge ones. And then the other biggest one, I think, for me, bass playing wise and rhythm section wise, was Rocco Prestia from Tower of Power.
Right.
I had a bass teacher was like, hey, you should check out Tower of Power, and I was like, what? Aren't they like an R&B band? And he was like, yeah, you should check it out. And I was like, man, give me a break.
Some of the older R&B and funk stuff, that's
Dude,
all
it's
rhythm.
Yeah. Well, then once I, you know, he like flipped me a copy of the self-titled record with like What Is Hip and Soul Vaccination and all that stuff. I was like, whoa, what is this guy doing? What is this? And then that really like, I started trying to cop his like syncopated finger style thing and kind of made this like hybrid deal. And I kind of heard that around the same time somebody turned me on to Jocko, who was, you know, the self-titled Jocko record, and he, you know, that tune Come On Come Over, where it's like, you know, kind of a similar syncopated 16th groove with all this insane playing. And I think Sam and Dave are on that tune, which, you know, so it was like this hitting this other thing that I was like, wow, and trying to kind of cop that style. I still don't think I could do it authentically, but I hear it come out in my playing sometimes. So those are huge influences. And then there's a whole list of, there's just too many to really, I could be here
too many to go into.
For hours.
What are you listening to now, currently? Any new bands out there that you have your eye on? Or?
Let's see. One group that I've been listening to a lot, like a lot, is this band called the Punch Brothers. Mm-hmm. That they're just incredible. But they're like a bluegrass kind of. I don't know. You know them?
I like a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Chris Thiele, the mandolin player from. He was in that like country group Nickel Creek.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is kind of a weird thing for me to talk about. But he's one of my favorite musicians I think ever. But yeah, it's like kind of this like new grass. People call it new grass,
right?
Which is, I'm not really
not huge on genres.
Yeah. The genres are put them aside. It's bluegrass instrumentation, but they do really cool. They're all monster musicians. The bassist, Paul Coward, I think his name is Coward. He does right now. He's a monster upright bassist, and they're just, it's interesting. You got bass, acoustic guitar, mandolin, banjo, and fiddle, and they're like doing these insane arrangements of like they're awesome.
Right.
So I've been listening to that a lot. I mean, there's other stuff that I listen to. Obviously, there's like a ton of stuff. I've been listening to the new Soundgarden record a lot. The new Tomahawk record.
Right.
I love.
We just actually were able to get an interview with one of the guys from Tomahawk, and it was pretty awesome.
Who was it with?
The bass player.
Trevor?
Yeah.
Oh, man!
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite bass players. Like, that's another...
Dude, his playing in Phantom.
Yeah, dude, it's ridiculous. Well, that's...
It's like mine.
Exactly. He's another one of my early influences. After hearing all that stuff, I remember a buddy turned me on to Mr. Bungle, and the first song that I ever heard was Merry Go Bye Bye, the last track on Disco Volante, and I was like it starts off, and I was like, what the hell are you playing me?
6 different genres in one.
Yeah, exactly. And it was funny because, I was like, what? This isn't cool. And then, the section, the Merry Go Bye Bye, where Mike Patton screams it, and then all of a sudden it's like this death metal. I was like, this is awesome. And then I remember buying that record, and I remember like the first 10 times I listened to it through, specifically thinking and like feeling like I will never absorb this whole record. Yeah. There is no way that I will ever understand the whole thing. But I tried, and I listened to that nonstop for years. That's actually, I almost always have it with me.
Yeah. Nice.
On like an
the
iPod.
go-to.
That's one of the go-to records for me of my whole life.
Whenever I hear that, there's no way I can play this. Like, I can't do this.
Yeah, but I mean that's awesome. When I found out that he was going to be playing with Tomahawk, I got super stoked.
Oh, yeah.
I remember when they announced Trevor's in the band and then Oddfellows was coming out. I was like, sweet. Yeah, and I remember I watched that like video that they put up. Well, no, they the first thing that they did to announce the record was like a little snippet of the song Oddfellows. And I was like, this is awesome. I got so stoked.
Yeah.
So that's, I've been listening to that record a lot.
Yeah,
awesome. I'm a big fan. Kind of geek.
Southpaw and White Hat, Black Hat on that album are amazing.
Oh yeah, dude, such a. I mean, the whole thing is like it's just got this. Yeah. I really, really love it. But Southpaw is one of those tunes that the first time I heard it, I like it got to the end, and I remember I was driving and I was like, I'm gonna listen to that again.
Yeah.
Repeat.
Yeah. Go back, play that again. So that's awesome, man. That's cool.
Any guilty pleasure bands we could catch you listening to?
Not really. I don't really think I have any guilty pleasures. Most of the stuff.
Anything we'd be surprised to hear on your iPod?
Huh. I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of stuff on my iPod.
Like Mariah Carey?
No, nothing like that. No, I don't really get into that. That's
That's too bad, man. Too bad.
Well, no, I mean, she can sing, and that's cool, but it just doesn't like.
Right. It's not appealing to you.
It doesn't resonate with me. Yeah. You know, I'm a big. I love a lot of classical music. I listen to a lot of that. I listen to a lot of jazz. I mean, Trevor from Tomahawk does like all these cool. Trio. Yeah, the trio Convulsion. Yeah. That was actually my introduction to that world of jazz with interesting kind of. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of records that he's done, like The Endangered Blood, and all that stuff. You know, all those guys, I really like. So some stuff like that most people would maybe, I guess most bass players I know are kind of
well versed.
Not so much well versed as like they're the dude in the band that you're like, I don't want you to play music for me. You know, it's like when everybody's hanging out and like picking songs, they're like, don't let him pick anything because we're gonna sit here for 15 minutes and listen to some like.
While you explain it, how awesome.
Or not even explain it. Like this track is gonna be 15 minutes long, and it's not gonna actually start to do anything remotely interesting until like the 7-minute mark. And we're gonna be annoyed, and so I don't really have any like guilty pleasures, but I have a lot of stuff that my wife hates. I guess I don't know. It's
What how do you feel about openers for the tour between Buried in Me, Russian Circles?
Oh man, I love them both so much, and I'll see those guys and just be like, man, you guys are awesome. You guys are just so awesome. And I swear, like, I remember the first night in DC at the 930 Club listening to Russian Circles soundcheck.
Just like sit and stare at Brian Cook and be like, you're amazing.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I remember being in the dressing room and they're starting soundcheck and he just like strums the bass. And I was like, whoa! And I ran out and I was like, it's like soul crushing tone, man. It's awesome. And so I got really excited, and I've watched them a ton of nights of the tour, and just they never cease to amaze me with they're so awesome. And I've had friends come out to the shows and stuff, and I'm like, get here and watch Russian Circles, watch Between the Buried and Me, because it's a real treat to watch both bands. Between the Buried and Me, it's like we were joking with some of those guys the other day, like how do you even like get through the set? Like, I mean, what do you guys?
You got like the drummer too.
Yeah, like how are your limbs not falling off sometimes? With some of this stuff, they're incredible. Awesome. They're monster musicians, very musical band, and it's a real treat to get to see them and hear them, night after night. It's like, it's just so cool.
The lineup for this show is like amazing. Like all three bands are like one of my favorite, all three of my favorite bands.
Oh, that's awesome. It's actually hard. Like sometimes I'll think after they're done playing, I'm like, I don't think. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna?
How can Coheed follow this?
Well, it's weird, and I'll just be like, man, what else can people process after that? Like these two bands play, it's like they're so good. What
you Coheed, you can do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a real treat, and I can't emphasize that enough. Like, it's awesome.
I wanted to know, the Coheed universe is definitely based heavily in the sci-fi comic book world. Besides just being a fan of the band, are these types of things that you're interested in outside of the band?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as a kid, I know a lot of kids I was into comic books. There was a comic shop literally a block away from my house when I grew up. And my dad used to yell at me for blowing my allowance every week on books. Yeah, I would go down and buy the new issues and stuff. And so I was really into it for a long time. Actually, when I was really young, I was really into drawing and art and stuff like that, and I wanted to be an animator. Mm-hmm. you know, I was like, I want to make cartoons because I was a kid. I was really into it. And as I got a little older and started reading comics, I was like, I want to do this. I want to illustrate comics. And I would like hours. I'd like draw, try and like get that together. And that all ended when I started playing bass. But you know, that was something that was a huge part of my childhood. That, like a lot of people, I got to a certain age where it was like, okay, now I like bands and skateboards, and comics are for kids.
I can practice the bass on time to drop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pretty much. It was like, well, man, I gotta nail this kickflip off this sidewalk, and then I gotta like play some bass. Man. That was like, you know, so I kind of went away from comics for a long time. Always appreciated them, but just didn't follow them for years, like through high school and stuff like that. And then as I got older, you know, I was working full time, like gigging full time before I joined Coheed. So it was like I just had no time to do anything. You know, it was either, all right, tonight I have a gig, I have a rehearsal, I have work tomorrow, I have this. You know, I was playing in a ton of different bands at the same time. So it hasn't really been until recently that I've had time to get back into stuff. So I've you know, we've been out and I've gotten some stuff and read some books and been like, oh. So I really, really enjoy them and grew up with them, but did spend quite a bit of time away.
Right.
So
separated for a little while.
Yeah, definitely.
Right on, man. Almost done here. Do you have a secret talent?
Not really, no.
Put you on the spot.
No, I don't think so. I have a talent for babbling.
There you go.
So I've been babbling this whole time, and I apologize.
No, we appreciate it. It's awesome. It's awesome. All right, man. Lastly, you know, you guys just released a new video and set out on tour to promote the Afterman releases. You know, obviously you got a little bit left to go on the tour, and I'm sure there's going to be a little bit more of that, and then, you know, the next little bit here. But what's next in store for Coheed beyond that?
You know, right now I think it's all about tour.
Right.
Tour. You know, we just put out 2 records, and it's really going to be about getting out there and playing as many shows as possible.
And I think that's where Coheed shines for sure. So.
Yeah, I definitely feel like that's the, you know, the live show is definitely a big, what's the word? You know, it like maybe changes people's minds sometimes when they see the band live.
Right. That,
you know, maybe people who hear the records
are
are
able
like,
to connect to the
band.
Yeah,
see like, you know, the energy and the enthusiasm.
Right.
So that's definitely, I think that's, as far as I know right now, there's just tour, and it's always more dates added, and I'm like, awesome, bring it on, let's do it.
Awesome, man. Well, that's all I have for you. I appreciate your time. It was a real pleasure to sit down with you.
Yeah, awesome, man. It was a pleasure to talk to you guys.